Much is known about the teenage years of the Ninja Turtles and their many encounters with the Foot Clan. However, there was a time when the Turtles weren't teenagers yet and they crossed paths with a very different type of clan. Today, I'll be talking about the secret history of the Gosei Samurai Clan. The Gosei Clan was introduced in the pages of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 9 in 1986, an issue that focused not only on the early days of the Turtles, but also introduced Master Splinter's mystical abilities. But behind the scenes, this issue was a brilliant idea that went completely off rail. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were initially going to plot the issue. Then Kevin would have done the breakdowns, Peter would have scripted it, and Michael Dooney would have penciled, inked, and toned it. This strategy would have given Kevin and Peter enough time to focus on the following issues and finally improve the schedule of the book. But things started going sideways when the creators found themselves working on the first recolored collection of the book for first publishing. This meant that Kevin and Peter had to now also focus on doing colors, retouches, relettering, and creating 2 new 6-page stories. This forced work on issue 9 to be put on hold. Since Kevin was swamped with work, Peter then took the role of doing breakdowns for the issue. This delayed the book another month and a half to reach Michael Dooney. Inking was done by Dooney, Kevin, Ryan Brown, and Peter to accelerate things. The cover was penciled by Kevin, inked by Peter, and painted by Dooney. The Turtles had different costumes in this story, closer to one of the many possible designs they had planned for the Turtles a couple of years before. Also, only 2 of the Turtles used their typical weapons. Michelangelo used a Manriki Gusari, and Raphael used tonfas. It was never explained how the Turtles could communicate with everybody in the stories described in this video, so it wouldn't be a stretch to say that the Turtles probably spoke Japanese fluently. The story opened with the dreams of Gosei Hattori, the last descendant of the legendary Gosei Samurai Clan. In these dreams, Hattori dreamed of past battles. The meaning of these dreams wasn't clear to him. He attributed them to his ongoing struggle of choosing between his father's path and not. He didn't know that those dreams were an attempt from his grandfather Hatsumi to reach him from his deathbed in Japan. Gosei Hatsumi became desperate and reached out to anyone else who could help him through the astral plane. This was how he was able to contact Splinter. This was when Hatsumi explained to him his desperation because he needed to pass the spirit force of the Gosei Samurai Clan to him, something that was usually passed from father to son. But because his son Kenji abandoned the Gosei Bushido and dedicated his life to crime, his last chance to pass the spirit was Hattori. They lived in New York, and Hatsumi feared for Hattori's safety. This spirit force connected all their ancestors back to feudal Japan. Every time their spirit was passed to another descendant, their experiences and skills were also passed to them. Without it, there was no Gosei clan. Splinter understood the situation's urgency and followed Hatsumi's plan of exchanging bodies. A very risky move, as Splinter could die in Hatsumi's body back in Japan. In Master Splinter's body, Hatsumi led the boys to infiltrate Goseico Inc. Once inside, Hatsumi's goal was to talk to Hattori alone. Scouting the offices, Donatello discovered 2 men, Takahashi and Iwata, who were discussing a conspiracy to assassinate father and son to take control of the drugs and gambling operations. The Turtles took care of 3 of those assassins, but the 4th one made his way to Kenji and Hattori. To save his son, Kenji stopped the bullets with his own body. With the 4th assassin down, Hatsumi had to convince Hattori to do the ritual, despite looking like a giant rat. Hattori was in shock and wouldn't really calm down or believe Hatsumi. So his grandfather drew the symbol of the Gosei clan, the symbol Hattori has been seeing in his dreams. Hatsumi successfully passed his spirit to Hattori and then swapped places with Splinter to die in peace. But a last assassin came from the skylight to try and kill Hattori. Fortunately, Hattori now had the knowledge of hundreds of generations of samurais and could deal with him all by himself. As the years passed, the Turtles became teenagers and eventually crossed paths with Renette the Timestress. In their adventure with her, they fought a Time Lord called Savanti Romero. They ended up in prehistoric times to defeat him, where he seemed to have died. But he didn't. Savanti remained in suspended animation until 1373 in feudal Japan. Knowing the strange connection that the Gosei Samurai Clan had with time, he realized the Force Spirit was his only way back into the future. He started attacking him with magic and used some kind of anthropomorphic dinosaur toad known as Chote as his samurai. Because of the strange connection between all the generations of the clan, Hattori in 1992 had to reach out to the Turtles and Splinter at the farmhouse. He was in a lot of pain, so Splinter reached into his mind to find out what was happening. There, he sensed an evil presence trying to gain control of the ancestral mind link from the past. This presence wasn't there before, meaning someone was trying to change history. Hattori mentioned the sacred sand of time, implying that he knew about the Time Lords. Renette appeared before them, already knowing they needed her help. She confirmed that the Time Lords knew about the Gosei clan and their use of temporal magic. And since Hattori had a connection to the past, to him that attack was happening now. Splinter stayed behind to help Hattori, while the Turtles left for feudal Japan with Renette. But plans changed once Chote mentioned the Turtles and Renette to Savanti. Getting his hands on the Time Scepter was the best option to get out of there, so he sent Chote to kidnap Renette. She was smart enough to tell the Scepter to leave before getting captured by him. Unfortunately, they just needed to wait for the Scepter to return to her. Meanwhile, the Turtles tried to convince the master of the clan, Gosei Orega, that they were there to help him, but Orega was very hard to convince. Bored to tears, Raphael spent his time sparring with two Ronins, Oshi and Sato. Thanks to these Ronins, Raphael found the location of their nemesis' castle, but when they arrived there, they discovered that Chote already burned down the place. They followed their trace to some caves. The other Turtles discovered Raphael was missing and traced him to those caves, where they all reunited and fought against Chote. The scepter returned and ended up in possession of Savanti Romero. After seeing this, Donatello realized that it wasn't Savanti who was trying to change history. They had already changed it when they left Savanti in the past. Renette was able to defeat Savanti and send him back to the past. After seeing that Chote, a samurai she sympathized with, was now a Ronin, she offered him a new life and sent him to the time of Gizmo and Fluffy, a creation of Michael Dooney, who was also the writer of this story. The Turtles returned to the present where Hattori was finally recovered. Meanwhile, in the past, the two Ronins, Oshi and Sato, inspired by their training with Raphael, started the Foot Clan. But whatever happened to Hattori? Well, after running away from Goseico, he traveled around the world and decided to learn new skills, so he didn't rely too much just on the wisdom of his ancestors. One of these skills was hacking. He returned to the farmhouse where he proposed a mission to Splinter to destroy Goseico Inc. with the help of the Turtles. To do this, they needed to infiltrate the building, gain access to the main computer to deplete the bank accounts, and give all the money to different charities. Then they would need to find an armory and destroy it. But he also wanted to find Takahashi and Iwata, the two men he suspected ordered his father's and his deaths. Had he found them guilty, he would dispose of them. Unfortunately, the mission wasn't as simple as imagined. The building was guarded by the Foot Clan. After emptying the bank accounts, they found Iwata, who was being held prisoner by the ninjas. He revealed that the assassins they hired that night were from the Foot Clan, and that they continued to do business with them until Oroku Saki took control of their operations. Takahashi tried to regain control over Saki, which only got him killed. After that event, Saki put Kunoichi in control, and they kept Iwata in prison since then. This woman was known as the Mistress, and as soon as she heard the Turtles were in the building, she sent all the ninjas to stop them. During the confrontation, Hattori started recruiting employers still loyal to his father, who were against the Foot Clan. By the time the Mistress decided to retreat, she had sworn revenge on the Turtles for killing her master, and for the crimes that Hamato Yoshi committed against her family. A family that wasn't the Orokus. The Turtles escaped and Hattori blew up the basement of Goseico, destroying all the weapons. He then gathered his new followers and offered to lead them into a life of combating crime and injustice to atone for all the harm that Goseico had done. They would still make money, but only by legal means, and they would fight against evil groups like the Foot Clan. And this was how the Gosei Samurai Clan was reborn. It's worth mentioning that many elements of the initial story described in this video were the foundation for the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, a series that was focused on the turtles before they became heroes, and that was also quite heavy into the mystical side of the lore. Furthermore, both Michelangelo and Raphael used the same weapons in the show that they used in issue 9. But what about the mistress? Did Hamato Yoshi commit a crime against another family we didn't know about? Check out this other video to learn that side of the story. Thanks for watching.